Yesterday, President Trump pardoned 23 pro-lifers who were unjustly targeted by the previous Biden administration's weaponized Justice Department. And in signing the pardons, the president said that it was a great honor to sign this, adding that they should never have been prosecuted in the first place. And while this is certainly welcome to all of us, there's still a lot to be done. And joining me now to discuss this is Congressman Chip Roy. He serves on several House committees, including the Judiciary Committee. He represents the 21st Congressional District of Texas. Congressman Roy, joining us by phone. Welcome back to Washington Watch.
Great to be on, Jody. How are you, brother?
I am doing great. Good to hear your voice. Thanks for joining us. All right, listen, Chip, for those who have not been tracking all of this, tell us a little bit about these pro-lifers who were pardoned. What happened to them? Just how serious was this?
Well, first of all, let's take a step back and just consider what a great first week this has been with the president taking extraordinary action, executive orders, and leadership where it has been sorely lacking, restoring the rule of law at our border. And importantly, with respect to the J6ers, who were unfairly targeted and politicized, 1,500 individuals, many of whom have been just sitting in jail and dealing with that. And now we've got this issue with respect to the abuse of the FACE Act, which we've talked about on this program many times. You and I have, Tony and I have. And I introduced legislation to repeal the FACE Act because it was being abused by the Biden Department of Justice. We still should do that, by the way, because we should make this permanent. That law should not be there to be abused against pro-lifers. 97% of the application of the FACE Act has been against pro-life individuals. And unfortunately, that meant that these 21 individuals who were pardoned yesterday, thankfully, by President Trump, and great credit to him and his team for doing that, those 21 individuals were sitting in jail. And they were sitting in jail because they exercised their free speech and their views on pro-life. And to give you an example, right, we had a Gulag survivor from Eastern Europe, Eva Idol, who was 89 years old and had survived the Gulags in Eastern Europe, and she was prosecuted by the Department of Justice and to be targeted for putting in jail. I don't know if she'd received her sentence yet. Before the pardon. But then we had Laura Handy, who was a progressive activist, Jody, meaning she didn't agree with you and me and most of these listeners on most issues, but she was pro-life, an avowed progressive. I met with her. A wonderful lady. Again, we disagreed on a lot of issues, but she was put in jail for 57 months, 5-7, almost 5 years. And President Trump came in, and he's pardoned these individuals. Paula Harlow, who was able to get out. She was a 75-year-old who had health issues. So this is a great victory, not just for life as we sit here on the day of the March for Life, but for, an end to at least a pause in weaponized government. We still have more to do to make that permanent. That's why we should still pass the FACE Act repeal.
Absolutely, because I don't know that everyone understands this. It's been a fantastic week, as you said, with executive orders, but at the end of the day, when a different president comes in, all of these executive orders can be changed just with a mark of a pen. So the importance of codifying these things is critical. So let's talk about your repeal of the FACE Act. What would that look like? What would it accomplish? What would it have meant to these individuals who the president had to pardon yesterday?
Well, I introduced that legislation, I think, 2 years ago. The new bill that I introduced at this Congress is H.R. 589. And it would repeal the FACE Act, a law that was passed in the 1990s, under the promise that it wouldn't be abused and used in ways that were incorrect, even though some Republicans protested it at the time. Chuck Schumer guaranteed people, I think on the floor of the House, oh, don't worry, this will never be used nefariously. Well, of course, if you look at the data, 97% of the prosecutions, arrests, and so forth by the Department of Justice were targeted to pro-lifers. For example, we've had 91 attacks on, pro-life facilities that are there for pregnant women to assist them, and those attacks have been ignored. Okay, now those 91 attacks have occurred since the Dobbs decision, and so those were not pursued by the Department of Justice. Instead, they focused all of their animus on any individuals who dared to express their pro-life views at an abortion clinic. Now, look, you and I are rule of law guys. If somebody's exercising their free speech rights to talk about life in front of an abortion clinic, and they block access in some way that violates the law, or they do something, is that a misdemeanor? Do they need to pay a fine or do something? Maybe, right? The law is the law. But 57 months? What they're doing here, right? And it's the same stuff they were doing January 6th. They were using the law as a political sword, and that takes the blindfold off of Lady Justice, and that kills the rule of law. President Trump is restoring the rule of law.
Wow. So the FACE Act repeal would do what, quickly?
So it would repeal the law that was passed in the 1990s and remove it from the books so it could no longer be used as a sword against pro-lifers. It is not being used in any meaningful way to protect against, for example, church arson. There's already other legislation on the books that would deal with that. This was put on the books, and it was being used as a sword against pro-life individuals, and we should simply just take it off the books. That's it. That's all it does is repeals that law. We should do it. We should move it through the Judiciary Committee. We should move it to the floor of the House. We should make this a permanent change so that no future president has to pardon, as President Trump did yesterday, the 21 individuals who were unfairly politically targeted and charged under the Department of Justice by Biden.
With the, I'm sorry, Chip, with the slim majority, what's the chances, both in the House and the Senate, what's the chances of this making it to the president's desk, do you think?
Well, obviously difficult when you've got 60 votes that you need in the Senate. But I would love to pass that out of the House. I mean, no Republican should oppose it. We just passed the Born Alive Prevention Act with unanimous support among Republicans, and that was a good thing. I managed the bill on the floor yesterday. But this is a bill that goes beyond life and goes to the weaponization of the Department of Justice for people exercising their political views and their pro-life views. It should pass unanimously by Republicans. We should send it to the Senate. We should force them to vote on it. And if it doesn't pass, then at least we know where they stand.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Congressman Chip Roy of Texas. Always great to have you on the program. We are all deeply grateful for your leadership on this life issue and a host of other issues. Thank you for joining us.
God bless, Jody. Take care.